My days are never gonna be, I guess.
Which is never. So now.
Hey, rolling.
Okay.
Hey. Hi everybody. We're back. Mason's with me. We're gonna do a new video. What?
I'm here too.
Oh, Callie is our cameraman. Sorry.
Yeah, I never.
We're gonna take what we learned in the last 2 videos and do it a little bit further. Hopefully you've been practicing. I would recommend practicing a little bit before you take this one on. So what we're going to do is we're going to do Baby Yoda. How to make a Baby Yoda out of felt. So what I did is I drew this picture. I used the exact same method I used when I did the apple. And just to show you what I started from. Then I did the same technique and I traced out my outline and then I cut it down and then I traced out my other pictures there. And I'm going to upload this template for you as well to just print off and copy if you'd like to. And
I'm doing the
and
same.
Mason he did
The dog.
Adventure Time.
Yeah, Adventure Time.
Jake the dog from Adventure Time.
So here's who we started, and then he did the same thing, did his background, did his pieces. So what we did is we printed that off to show you what you're going to start with, but we have already cut out our pieces. I've got these guys ready, got little ones. I labeled them all so I know what I want to do, which they're already labeled on here. When you print this off, for some reason my scanner scans it slightly smaller than what it is, so when you print it, if you want to blow it up a little bit, go for it. If not, you'll end up with just a Yoda slightly smaller. So what I'm going to do is we are going to trace out on our felt and cut out our pieces. The one thing I'm going to add with this technique is you might be wondering why I'm cutting out this whole piece in green. Because it does waste it because it's going to be covered with the rogue piece. The reason why I find it's best to layer is because if I only cut out the head part, and the hands, which is actually the only green, is then I have to stitch these 2 parts together. And when you're wanting to stuff something, and then you have these stitching lines and stuff, and it's not as strong. And so I find that layering on top works the best for this technique. It does waste a little bit more felt, but if you plan ahead, that's okay. So now we're going to start tracing out and cutting out our pieces. And the only thing I did not include is these little dots in Yoda's eyes. They're just so small that it's not worth cutting out the paper. So what I'm going to cut out is just 2 tiny little, one small circle and one slightly smaller, just for the, what do we call them? Eye twinkles?
Yeah.
Sure. Eye twinkles. So that's what we're going to do next. Okay, so now that I have all my pieces cut out, what I need to do is I want to make sure that my pen is hidden. So I'm going to flip my pieces around. And then I want to decide which is going to be my front and which is going to be my back. So I think this will be my front because this looks like my picture. Then what I'm going to do is lay my pieces on top. And if it doesn't line up exactly, that's fine. You can always trim it after before you stitch it together. Something went wonky here. That's okay. So my front ones, I'm gonna have my eyes. Place it where I kind of want them to be. And you'll watch how your guy will kind of come to life a little bit. This piece is going to go on the back. One thing I discovered as I was cutting this out is on the little piece for the sleeve cuffs, I wrote cut 2, but you actually need to cut 4 if you want cuffs on the back as well. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to trace my lines that I have in the picture. I'm going to do that with thread, like I did the worm on the apple. But I'm just going, because this is a lot, I'm going to just lightly trace in pen so that when I start sewing I don't really have to think about where I'm going. If you don't want to sew it, you can do the same thing, is get a felt pen and do it that way. But I'm just going to lightly trace where I want my, kind of copying my picture that I have. So that's kind of how I want it to be. And then I'm just going to put a little bit here when I go around. I don't want to do that. So the next step is to start assembling your pieces. You're going to want to stitch these pieces onto the eyes first, and then stitch the eyes onto the face. Then you're going to want to stitch all the pieces onto the robe first before you stitch it on to the front. And then you're going to want to do the same thing with the back. We'll do this piece and these pieces. You don't need to stitch all the way around the edge right now because we're going to be doing that when we stitch the front and the backs together. But you do want to stitch across this line, and around these pieces. Anything that's on the outer edge, don't worry about, because we will do that later. Okay?
Want me to pause it?
No, because and I'm going to get started. Okay, so we got all our pieces sorted out, and now we are ready to start sewing. Mason's got his Jake guy sorted out here. He's going to start sewing, and I'm going to start with the eyes here. If you do not want to sew these pieces on, you can use a glue gun and just glue gun them on. However, if you are glue gunning, you need to make sure that you don't glue gun near the edge, because trying to stitch through glue gun glue is really, really hard, and a lot of times you can't do it. So whatever you decide to do, make sure that you don't glue near the edges. when I'm stitching around the edge here, I'm not worried about doing a blanket stitch. I'm just gonna go in and out. I'm not super concerned about whether or not it matches like the back stitch we did. I will do some back stitching when I do the ears and that, but just to get these pieces attached, I actually like how this stitch works, just going in and out.
What the heck is right down?
It's hard to see with this color.
If you don't really know the basics of sewing, like how to do a blanket stitch and how to knot the thread, I'm pretty sure you tell them how in the first video of this.
Yeah, and that's why I recommend watching the other videos first, because you'll learn the basic idea. This is a little bit more advanced, but I hope that you guys will practice and try this because it's fun. And you can pretty much make any type of character. If you have a favorite character in a show, just start drawing it out. Just make it really simple. Don't make it too detailed. It's easy to get caught up in details and then it becomes difficult and frustrating.
I poked myself.
Frustrating.
Very